What was meant to be a celebration felt more like a reckoning. Gold streamers hung from the ceiling, champagne glasses caught the light, and photos traced the legacy of one of the greatest tight ends the NFL has ever known. But when Andy Reid stepped up to the microphone on December 29, 2025, the room at the Kansas City Chiefs facility fell completely silent. Not because another title was being honored, not because of highlights or records, but because of her. Taylor Swift sat beside Travis Kelce in a simple navy dress, elegant enough to disappear into the room. Her hand rested in his, fingers intertwined. Tonight, she wasn't a global icon. She was just Taylor, quietly anxious, hopeful, wondering if the men who had shaped Travis's life would finally see her not as a distraction, but as part of his journey. 3 sentences into Coach Reid's speech, her eyes filled with tears, not from shock or sadness, but from something far rarer, being truly seen. Because he didn't talk about Super Bowls. He didn't mention stats. He spoke about what cameras never catch, the unseen force that had changed Travis from the inside. And everyone in that room understood they weren't just listening. They were witnessing something sacred. But what came next went beyond praise. It was a confession, one that would redefine how everyone understood their relationship. The photos later showed Taylor smiling beside Travis, calm and radiant. What they didn't show was the tension she'd carried for weeks. This wasn't a red carpet. This was the inner circle, the locker room family, the men who'd stood beside Travis through injuries, losses, and comebacks. And now she was stepping into their world, not as a fan or a date, but as his fiancée. Days earlier, she'd asked him quietly, "Do they even want me there?" Travis squeezed her hand, but even he couldn't predict what would be said once the music faded. Jason and Kylie Kelce flew in from Philadelphia, not for spectacle, but for support. They knew this night wasn't just about saying goodbye to a player. It was about whether love, real, imperfect, vulnerable love, had a place in a world built on toughness and tradition. Whispers had followed Taylor all season. Some worried her fame would distract Travis. That football and superstardom couldn't coexist. She heard it all. She never responded. Coach Reid heard it too. That's why when he spoke, his words carried weight. He didn't begin with achievements. He looked past them. When Travis first told me he was dating Taylor Swift, he said, pausing deliberately, I was worried. The room tensed. Jason stiffened. Kylie glanced at Taylor. Taylor's breath caught. This was the fear she'd never voiced. But Reid continued, turning toward her with quiet kindness. Not because of who Taylor is, but because I've seen what happens when players get pulled in too many directions. When love becomes a spotlight instead of a refuge. Then his voice softened. What I saw instead changed everything I thought I knew about partnership. He described how Travis didn't just maintain excellence, he evolved. How he began leading not just with skill, but with presence. How he showed up more fully in meetings, in conversations, in moments no one televised. I watched him learn to lead with his heart, Reid said. Then came the words that broke her open. Taylor, you didn't just support Travis's career. You transformed who he is as a human being. The room didn't move. It breathed together. In that silence, Taylor realized this wasn't about justifying her place. It was about the Chiefs honoring it. This wasn't a farewell. It was an initiation. Before the applause faded, Coach Reid walked toward their table, holding a small navy box wrapped in gold ribbon. For all of us, he said. Inside was a custom Chiefs jersey. Not Travis's, hers. Across the chest, Swift. Beneath it, 87. It wasn't a gift. It was a declaration. You belong.